South African champion Castrol Rally.
I haven't rallied for 3 years, so I hope it's like riding a bicycle. I'll have to drive myself in. I haven't driven the car a lot, so the first day I think I'll just try and settle down, and then maybe we'll see where we are and take it from there.
After 2 hugely popular special stages in Centurion, the rally moved into the Witbank and Greener areas for 3 more stages before the first rebunch at Ermelo. From Ermelo, competitors headed for Canvalt and Amsterdam for the second rebunch before moving into Swaziland.
The move, I think, from Ermelo to Centurion, bringing it closer to the public, it worked out beyond their expectation. I mean, it's fantastic turnout here today. Everybody is so excited. I think we as the sponsors are more than delighted. I think the competitors, the spectators, the promoters are all in for a fantastic rally. We're going to have a fun time.
Over the years, the Castrol Rally has developed into more than just a major motorsport event. It doubles up as a social event that draws personalities from all branches of motorsport from throughout South Africa. The Castrol generates an atmosphere few other events can emulate, but for competitors it offers a serious challenge of man and machine. First car on the road after the withdrawal of Kenyan crew Ian Duncan and Dave Williamson were reigning national champions Serge Damso and Vito Bonafide in the factory Castrol Toyota Conquest 4x4. Following the retirement of Castrol Rally and Frans Boschel 3 years ago, South African rallying has been dominated by Damso and Bonafide. They won 7 out of 8 events in last year's championship, won the first 2 events this year, and were looking for their 4th Castrol Rally victory. Despite the return to action of Van der Merwe and Bossel, all the experts were tipping Damso and Bonafide to make it 3 in a row in this year's national championship. Most pundits were also in agreement that the major challenge to Damso and Bonafide would come from Enzo Kuhn and Guy Hodgson in the Hyundai accent.
Yes, of course, we're running the turbo car now, and it's very difficult to say. You know, we have never competed against the normally aspirated cars, or I haven't seen a turbo car. There are a lot of advantages on the faster stuff. The car runs well in top gears, but it's also much slower into the corner without the engine braking. You can't use the gears to stop into the corners. And then, of course, we have the lag problem, and I have to get used to this new way of driving. It's a totally new discipline, very different from what I'm used to. So I'll be able to tell you after the first 2 stages how competitive we will be.
There was a special reason for the talented Kuhn to do well on this year's event. Father Christo won the inaugural Castrol Rally way back in 1972. But there was plenty of interest in battles that were certain to develop throughout the various classes over the next 3 days.
Gary, we see there's a bit of a threat in the front-wheel drive class in Castrol Rally.
Yes, I think it'll be quite interesting, and one has always got to have a bit of respect for the older generation in the sport. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
The Stanbrick VW Golf Synchro in the hands of Jannie Hubik and Douglas Judd is the only locally developed car that currently fully conforms to the Formula 2 regulations, seen as the formula of the future in South African rallying. Hubik and Judd are chargers from way back, but also waiting in the wings was the second half of the most successful partnership in the history of rallying in South Africa.
Well, you know, it's exciting to be back. I've missed a couple of years now, and this is an exciting car, a new venture by the Koreans into South African rallying and worldwide rallying. So, you know, it is exciting to be right in at the beginning and to be back in the rallying. And it's amazing how you sort of pick it up as you go along, making your service notes. And Van and I were practicing a bit, and he got sort of lost it a bit in the mud, and he said it's amazing how you just know how to correct it, sort of instinctive, but the instinct's kicking in.
Castrol Rally won an international reputation as a racing driver in sports and saloon cars, but it's primarily as a rally driver that he will be remembered. 11 South African championships go into the supervan Frans Bossel legend, but after a 3-year layoff, it was bound to take the pair time to get back into the swing of things. While Van der Merwe and Bossel were easing their way back into a rally rhythm, Kenyan competitor Glenn Edmonds was reflecting on the challenge of coming to grips with South African conditions.
I got to admit, the competition here is really good. Your cars are specially designed for this event, whereas ours is a safari car. So we're a lot heavier, and you know, we have disadvantages, no doubt about it.
Edmonds and navigator Gary McIntyre were out in a state-of-the-art Mitsubishi Lancer Evo, similar to the car which won the Kenya Safari earlier this year. The crew ran into a minor problem early on, and handbrake turns in the middle of Centurion are not recommended under normal driving conditions.
My previous record has been quite good. Out of the 3 that I've done so far, I've finished 2 in not bad positions. Basically, you've got to keep it on the road, keep the car together and not try and win the rally in the first few stages. And you've got to pace it and see how fast the pace is. If it's a bit hectic, you've got to try and slow down and see where you can catch it, maybe at night. Try and stay with the bigger cars, the 2-litre front-wheel drives. That's basically our ploy, is to just hang back a little bit, see what the pace is, and not try and set the pace, and see what happens at the end of the rally. Day 2, maybe we then start dicing, but day 1 is really just to get through into Swaziland and then start those nice stages there.
And then 90 right after telephone pole. Wow. Daar en on the grass, straight.
Cassie, this vehicle is in an accident and it's just had a total rebuild. You obviously haven't had any chance for testing. What do you sort of think of your prospects and chances?
Very good indeed, because while the truck was at a panel beating, Skill had taken a gearbox and did a lot of gear ratio changing. So I've got a better first and second gear now. Tyre-wise, we're sticking to the bigger tyres because I think at the end of the day will be a benefit to us. Mechanical, it's beautiful. It sounds perfect. We haven't got a problem.
Plenty of work ahead for Springboks Cassie Coetzee and Richard Leek in the Castrol Toyota Hilux, and a trip down memory lane. For Sarel van der Merwe and Frans Boshoff, a combined total of 19 Castrol Rally wins started in 1975, with victory in a Datsun Triple S. With the rally starting to gather momentum, there was an early scare for Enzo Kuhn and Guy Hodgson. At the service point at the end of Special Stage 3, there was plenty of activity in the Bankford Hyundai camp.
Enzo, you were having problems at the side of the road on the way to stage 3. Can you tell us what it was?
We were just concerned about the gearbox oil temperature going off the scale. It was over 150 degrees, so I was a bit worried about that. But it seems now that it just overheats because we were doing about 200 k's an hour on the open section, just trying to make the stage. And it seems that it's all right in the stage, but I'm worried about it because the gearbox was overheated a lot and we could smell the oil.
At the front of the field, Serge Damso and Vito Bonafide had taken an early grip on proceedings in the Castrol Toyota Conquest. Special Stage 4 provided crews with a few problems, but the Toyota pair extended an early lead to 32 seconds. It was cold and overcast, but there were plenty of spectators at the Hendrina special stages. With their false alarm out of the way, Guy Hodgson and Enzo Kuhn were pushing hard to stay in touch with the leaders. Racecam action provides plenty of evidence that rallying is no drive through the park, with Kuhn hard at work in the Bankford Hyundai in tricky conditions. The ever-spectacular Jannie Hubig and Douglas Judd in the Stanbrick Golf posted the third fastest time on stage 4 behind Damso and Bonafide and Kuhn and Hodgson, who had the advantage of four-wheel drive. Among the spectators were Francis Tucker, the father of the Castrol Rally, and his wife Joan, who are now retired in Somerset West. Hubig and Judd were followed through Special Stage 4 by Kenyans Glenn Edmonds and Gary McIntyre, who were still trying to find their feet in local conditions. There were no such problems for Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley in the Team Total Toyota Conquest. The Natalians are among the rising stars in South African rallying scene and have quickly slotted into the top 5. While Enzo Kuhn and Guy Hodgson went their merry way, there was disaster for the second Bankford Hyundai accent, driven by former Zimbabwean Billy Rotenbach and Johan Seeling. The normally aspirated Hyundai was heading for retirement with a dropped valve. While Rotenbach and Seeling were slowly making their way out of the stage, Jürgen Fecken and Neil Ferree were in full flight, and some spectacular motoring from the Transvaal champions was to put them into 5th place overall at the first rebunch in Ermelo. At the end of Special Stage 4, the Castrol Toyota Conquest of Serge Damso and Vito Bonafide had built up an early lead of just over 30 seconds. There was slight concern over the after effects of hitting a water splash, but never the most talkative of men, Damso was in a relaxed mood.
Everything is going very well at the moment, just except the last stage we had quite a bit of water, so we got water in a distributor which had a slight misfire towards the end. So I hope that was all. It was the problem.
There were no dramatics from Sorrel van der Merwe and Frans Boshoff in the Castrol Rally over the first 5 special stages, with the pair looking cool, calm and collected. A drive shaft and differential problem warranted a discussion with team manager Johan Evertser, with the old firm in a solid third behind the four-wheel drive Castrol Toyota Conquest and the Bankford Hyundai Accent of Enzo Kun and Guy Hodgson. Down memory lane again with another motorsport legend among former Castrol Rally winners. Jan Hettemer, a double Springbok in motorsport and cycling, twice won the Castrol in the 70s.
100.
Special Stage 5 produced the first hint of problems for Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley in the team Total Toyota Conquest. The pair were sailing along when a gearbox malfunction saw them roll to a halt. While Lawrence and Paisley disembarked to carry out running repairs, Terry Brandt and Marty Olivier in the Autotech VW Golf sailed past the stranded Toyota Conquest. All was going well with Brandt and Mrs. Olivier in the early stages, and they had quickly settled into a steady rhythm that had taken them into the top 10. The car was sounding good and all was well with the team on a cold day that produced intermittent rain squalls that often made life uncomfortable for the crews. Behind Bran and Olivier, the early fireworks were coming from Hagen Vacken and Neil Ferree in the team Total Toyota Conquest. Vacken comes from a rally family, with his late father Harry and uncles Lambert and Ruloff, all top flight drivers in their time. Young Hagen is a chip off the old block and is making spectacular progress through the field. Also up into the top 10 were Springbok's Cassie Coetzee and Richard Leek in the Castrol Toyota Hilux. The pair were running at the head of the Video Sport Pioneer Plastics Off-Road Challenge, which formed part of an event within an event on the Castrol. Coetzee and Leek won the inaugural Off-Road Challenge on last year's Castrol, as well as picking up a top 10 finish. Going along at a slightly more sedate pace were Zambian driver Satwan Singh and his Kenyan navigator Surinder Tati in a Hyundai Elantra. A regular on the Castrol in recent years, Singh finished third 2 years ago in a Toyota Celica, with Leek doing the navigating. Behind the Hyundai Elantra, life was a little difficult for Paolo Piazzamusso and Cindy Harding in the team Total Fiat Uno. They were caught in one of the intermittent rain squalls that swept across the Mpumalanga countryside. On the treacherous surface, Piazzamusso had his hands full.
Load to light, keep straight.
Open your head, Dr.
Open my what? Oh.
At the end of stage 5, Hyundai Supremo Billy Rotenbach was now in the role of a spectator.
You know, we're still in developing. You know, we're trying to get the car to perform better and better. And we get a lot of our components from Australia. And I think that's part of one of the problems that one of the components failed.
A late change saw Cindy Harding link up with Paolo Piazzamusso in the team Total Uno. Business commitments kept regular navigator Nick Haddon at home, and with Chart van der Walt sitting this one out, Cindy stepped into the breach. Mrs. Harding's husband Steve won the Castrol in 1989 with Johan Evertser.
How was it out there on this last stage in the rain?
Very difficult conditions. You can probably pick it up on the in-car camera. We just couldn't see anything. The window was misting, the wiper blade wasn't working well, so we couldn't see very well. I think I put in a few bad words in there, but nevertheless we got through it okay.
Special Stage 5 was also full of incident, where a grim-looking Jannie Hubig and Douglas Judd were concerned, with the Stanbrook Golf starting to look a little worse for wear.
Man, there's a long water stretch at the bottom of the stage, and the car stopped halfway through. We were basically in the middle of the road, and then one of the competitors came past and also battling to get through the water, and he slid sideways and then damaged the back and rear of the car. But unfortunately, I think we've lost about 6 or 7 minutes in the stage, so that's a bit of a disaster in any case.
At the first rebunch in Ermelo, the Hubig-Judd combination had dropped way down the field. Predictably enough, Dermso and Bonafide were leading the rally ahead of Kun and Hodgson. Brandon Olivier were third, with the old firm of Van der Merwe and Bossel fourth, and Vacken and Ferree a superb fifth after a spirited early drive. In recent years, Ermelo has been the start venue for the Castrol Rally, and the friendly Mpumalanga town retained its links with the event this year via the rebunch and a combination tar and dirt special stage when the rally got underway again. Serge Damso and Vito Bonafide in the Castrol Toyota Conquest had built up a lead of just more than a minute at the rebunch and looked to be well in control of proceedings. It was still early days, but the whole Damso and Bonafide were clamping on the event meant that the likes of Enzo Kun and Guy Hodgson in the Bangford Hyundai Accent were constantly having to play catch-up. The Hyundai had the legs on the Toyota in a straight line, but Kun was still coming to grips with the different driving techniques needed for turbo power. With the Castrol Rally seldom won on the first day, Kun and Hodgson were probably quite happy to be in second place. After losing time in the special stage prior to the rebunch, Jannie Hubbig and Douglas Judd in the Stanbreck Golf had more catching up to do than most. Their troubles were compounded in special stage 6 with a side shaft problem that cost them more time when they could ill afford another setback. Special stage 6 also saw the demise of Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley in the team Total Toyota Conquest.
That's fast right, 100, easy right. Okay, and then?
Paisley and Lawrence went out with a broken motor, with Hubbig and Judd having to repair a lower control arm on the Stanbreck Golf suspension. After losing over a minute in the special stage 6, it was turning out to be a trying afternoon for Hubbig and Judd. Special stage 6 also saw the end of the Glenn Edmonds Gary McIntyre Mitsubishi with differential problems, and the casualty list was starting to mount. History was made in 1976 when Andre Liebenberg and Jan Kriek gave Ford the first of their 3 Castrol Rally successes.
Medium right, fast left over rock, slow right, and then caution, slow right over slow jump, slow right over slow jump, slow left over slow dip, medium right over medium dip, medium right over medium dip, medium dip, 50, long fast left.
It was on stage 7 that disaster struck for Serge Damso and Vito Bonafide in the Castrol Toyota Conquest. The pair went out of the 25th Castrol Rally in spectacular fashion.
Serge has just had a major accident at about 200 k's an hour. He rolled it head over heels, so we're out on our own now.
The Castrol Toyota was much the worse for wear after flipping end over end at around 180 kilometers per hour. With all rally cars fitted with sturdy steel roll cages and driver and navigator further protected by 3-point seat harnesses, the pair escaped without injury. Hopes of a 4th Castrol Rally win were in tatters, with the reigning South African champions now reduced to a spectator role.
Well, it was a long, fast section with a couple of drifts up and down, and after the third one, we took off and sort of the back kicked up and went in a nose and back and rolled. Fortunately, that's one of those things.
Disappointment was etched on the faces of the Castrol Toyota service crew, but the show must go on, even if it's missing 2 of its stars. Enzo Kun and Guy Hodgson were now firmly entrenched in the lead in the Bangford Hyundai Accent, with the prospect of Kun emulating his father's win on the inaugural Castrol now a real possibility. Although now way down the pecking order, Jannie Hubbig and Douglas Judd were second on the road and pushing for all they were worth. After their troubles before and after the Ermelo rebunch, Hubbig and Judd had plenty of leeway to catch up. Hubbig had the instinct of a charger and looked as though he wanted to wipe out the deficit in one special stage. Hubbig's style of driving makes for spectacular action, and he was second quickest to Kun on the stage. Steaming along behind Hubbig and Judd were Sorrel van der Merwe and Frans Boshoff in the Sassel Daewoo. Much of the ring rustiness after a 3-year layoff appeared to have already rubbed away, and Supervan was starting to find his rhythm. Van der Merwe doesn't particularly like front-wheel drive cars, but he was driving smoothly, and the performance of the 2 veterans and the Korean car had already opened a few eyes. Behind the Sassel Daewoo, the Autotech VW Golf in the hands of Terry Brand and Marty Olivier was starting to emerge as a surprise package of the rally. The Golf was involved in a terrific tussle with the team Total Toyota Conquest of Jürgen Fecken and Neil Ferree. The spectacular Fecken was on a mission and throwing the Conquest around with gay abandon. The young Pretoria civil engineer looked to be enjoying himself hugely, with a good battle developing between 3 or 4 cars behind the front runners. Tony Kenny Ball and Brian Duncan in another team total entry had moved up to join the fray and were very much embroiled in the mid-top 10 battle that was starting to capture their interest as the rally headed towards the Amsterdam rebunch and Swaziland. The husband and wife team of Ben and Isabel van der Westhuizen in one of the 4 factory Castrol Daewoo entries were gradually moving through the field and had also settled into a steady rhythm at the front of the Group N category. A good scrap was also developing in the Video Sport Pioneer Plastics Off-Road Challenge, where Arpi Reinicker and Robin Houghton in the Bankfin Toyota Land Cruiser were locked in battle with the Castrol Toyota Hilux of Cassie Coetzee and Richard Leake. The Ford Cosworth of Graham Nichols and Ron Billiard had put in some impressive stage times and was mixing it with the van der Westhuizens and 2 other Daewoo entries in the hands of Kenyan crews. The Castrol Rally fact file with Serge Damso, the most successful Toyota driver in the history of the event, with 3 victories in 1991, 92 and 95. With the rally edging towards the second rebunch at Amsterdam and the crossing into Swaziland, the unpredictable weather conditions continued. As darkness fell and the spotlights came out, the weather conditions compounded what were already tricky conditions, with mist also a factor. Night special stages are notorious for sorting out the men from the boys, and for many crews it was time to make a tactical decision.
I don't know so much about a waiting game. I believe you've still got to keep a pace up. If you play a waiting game, other people are going to catch and pass you, and then you're doing the chasing. So rather just hold a certain pace. We've agreed on a percentage pace, and that's what we're going to run at. And we'll see what happens tomorrow afternoon.
Some crews, of course, are happier in the dark than others.
I like the night driving. Night driving is usually where we catch up a little time, so we'll see what we can do tonight.
At the Amsterdam regroup, Koen and Hodgson had a comfortable lead over Brandt and Olivier. Behind them, Van der Merwe and Boshoff were slotted into 3rd, with Fecken and Fourie 4th and Ball and Duncan 5th. After a tough time of it in wet and muddy night stages on the last leg of day 1 between Amsterdam and the first overnight stop at Mbabane, crews were steeling themselves for more tricky conditions on day 2. Sections 4 and 5 were run in the forests in the Maklamba-Natsi and Bunya areas, with the prospect of more rain on a day that again provided for cold and overcast weather conditions. The first night stages in Swaziland took a heavy toll on crews who either fell by the wayside or lost valuable time. It was not everyone's cup of tea, but the Castrol Rally is not an event for the faint of heart.
I love the night, and I really enjoy the wait. You know, it's a real challenge, and that's what rallying is about. So I'm really having fun, and a lot of people are complaining and get sick at night when it's misty and that, but I think that's what rallying is about. So I enjoy that, and you know, I'd say I'm still going hard. I'm just changing gears at lower RPM to keep the pressure on myself and keep concentrating.
Yeah, I feel very proud of Enzo these days. He's doing well, and I think we had a lot of influence in him and the family, that he started off rallying at a very early stage. This is the main thing. A lot of people don't realize that he's still fairly young, but he's got a lot of experience. He's got a lot of rally kilometers behind him, and I think that will assist him in a long event like this.
Ian, 25 years ago you competed in this event in a Triumph TR2. Today you stand here as team manager with young Enzo on the brink of winning this event. How does it all feel?
Well, when I competed in the Triumph, Enzo was still a toddler. And it's nice to see him come up and do as well as what he's doing. I'm very proud of him.
Paolo Piazza Musso's father also competed in the 1972 Castrol.
Certainly his experience has helped me, but I'm a normal human being. I'm also nervous in the conditions. You don't feel you've got full control, so we take it easy. I try and use the knowledge that's put through to me. We'll try and stay on the road, do it to the best of our ability.
And what influence has your father had on you in terms of making a decision to go rallying?
He was, funny enough, very negative over the decision. He wanted me to play golf or tennis, but I always say once you've got petrol in the veins, you just can't get rid of it. I mean, you just have to get in yourself.
At the overnight stop, Koen and Hodgson were firmly entrenched in the lead. A late problem the previous night dropped Van der Merwe and Boshoff to 3rd behind the Brandt-Olivier combination. A ding-dong battle was also going on at the head of the Video Sport Pioneer Plastics Off-Road Challenge. Among the spectators at the first special stage of the second day was Vita Bonafide, who was hiding his disappointment behind a broad smile. There was a festive air about the Swaziland stages, but there was nothing frivolous about Enzo Kun and Guy Hodgson as they set about consolidating their position in the Bankford Hyundai. Conditions were far from perfect, and with four-wheel drive, the Hyundai had a huge advantage over the other front runners. Terry Brand and Marty Olivier in the Autotech Golf GTI started the day with a handy lead over Sorel van der Merwe and Frans Boshoff in the Formula 2 specification Sassel Daewoo. With the Autotech car also developing a mysterious engine misfire, Brand and Olivier were under siege from Supervan and Boshoff from the word go. The Sassel Daewoo was soon taking big chunks of time off Brand and Olivier, and it was obvious by now that van der Merwe had shaken off the rustiness of 3 years away from a rally car. Day 2 had already claimed a big fish in the form of Jannie Hubbig and Douglas Judge, who retired the Stanbrick VW Golf with a broken fuel rack. Kun was taking full advantage of the Hyundai Accent's four-wheel drive configuration, with Brandt and Olivier still under siege from van der Merwe and Boshoff, who were starting to fly. The persistent misfire slowing down the Autotech Golf simply added to the pressure van der Merwe and Boshoff were starting to apply. There were also early day 2 problems for Paolo Piazza-Musso and Cindy Harding in the Team Total Fiat Uno. They were cruising along with a broken control arm. Murphy's Law saw the control arm break on the first of 3 special stages where no servicing was allowed, and the Team Total car was rapidly dropping down the pecking order. There was also a great deal of interest now in the battle going on in the Video Sport Pioneer Plastics Off-Road Challenge between Arpi Reinicke and Robin Houghton in the Bankford Toyota Land Cruiser, and Cassie Coetzee and Richard Leek in the Castrol Toyota Hilux. Both crews were in the top 10, with Coetzee and Leek starting to rapidly catch the Land Cruiser. The Team Total Golf of Natalia and Tony Ball and Brian Duncan had run consistently in the top 10 and was embroiled in a battle with the 2 off-road entries. Top 10 runners who started the day behind the Piazza-Musso Harding car were moving up the ladder, but as on the first day, the fight going on from 4th to 10th was starting to get interesting. The Sassel Daewoo of Ben and Isabel van der Westhuizen had also moved into the top 10. A steady drive had taken the husband and wife combination into the lead in the Group N category. Behind them, the adventures of Jürgen Fecken and Neil Fourie continued in the 4th Team Total entry, running in the top 10. After dropping down the order via an off-road excursion, the pair were on another of their now familiar charges. Fecken and Fourie were 9th, with the top 10 rounded out by Natal crew Brian Martin and Brian Clifton, who had unobtrusively soldiered along in the Castrol Toyota Conquest. Zimbabweans Hannes Kruger and Kenneth Rowley were starting to produce some impressive stage times in the ex-Brady Dabner Toyota Conquest 4x4. There were 1 or 2 hiccups for the pair and problems for Terry Brandt and Marty Olivier in the Autotech Golf, who had surrendered 2nd place to van der Merwe and Boshoff.
Yes, we've picked up a misfire. We hit a puddle, and after that we had a misfire. The guys are just checking to see if there's any moisture anywhere.
With Supervan and Boshoff back in 2nd place, the Sassel Daewoo team was oozing confidence.
Well, it feels great. 89, we had a similar situation with regard to the rain. So far I'm very confident and positive, but it's still a long event, and we'll just hang in there.
Back in time with the Castrol Rally fact file. Jeff Mortimer's 2 Castrol victories came 13 years apart. With the 4-wheel drive Bankford Hyundai at home in the tricky Day 2 conditions, Enzo Kun and Guy Hodgson continued to stretch their lead. Kun wasn't holding back and was widening the gap despite flashes of the old mastery from Sorel van der Merwe in the Sassel Daewoo. Paolo Piazza-Musso was now finding the Team Total Fiat Uno almost undrivable.
I mean, more serious than that.
Paolo was also proving that rally drivers do get a little touchy at times.
What is it? Come.
With the rally heading towards the first rebunch of the day at Mhlamba Nyatsi, all 4 factory Daewoos were still running strongly. Sunny Aslam and Abdul Sidi were lying second in the Group N category, but were being chased by off-road crew Colin Frankenberg and Tony Yeo in the Forstex Range Rover, who were enjoying themselves hugely. After a good run, Special Stage 19 saw the end of the Golf GTI in the hands of Jacques Botha and Tony Martins. They were headed for retirement with gearbox failure. It was a major disappointment for the crew, but behind them, Cully van der Merwe and Andre Duplessis were scoring a few points for those competitors out in cars getting a little long in the tooth. The pair were putting up some splendid stage times in the aging Nissan Stanza. At the front of the field, rally leaders Enzo Kuhn and Guy Hodgson continued to edge away from Sarah van der Merwe and Frans Boshoff. The only problem at this stage for the Bankfin Hyundai crew was to settle on a pace that eliminated the risk factor and at the same time prevented them from falling into a sense of false security. With a day and a half still to go, Kuhn and Hodgson had to reach a tactical decision that satisfied the best of both worlds. For van der Merwe and Boshoff in the Castrol Rally Cello, the option was a little more clear-cut. They had to try and force the pace and create as much pressure as they could muster. Van der Merwe and Boshoff were steadily pulling away from Terry Brand and Marty Olivier in the Autotech Golf, and their problem was not what was happening behind them. The battle of the Toyotas was still in full swing in the Video Sport Pioneer Plastics Off-Road Challenge. R.P. Raniker and Robin Houghton, whose father Roger also competed in the first Castrol Rally, were holding a tenuous lead in the Bankfin Toyota Land Cruiser. Jürgen Fecken and Neil Ferree were still on a charge in the Team Total Toyota Conquest, with the Kingsway Daewoo of Sammy Aslan and Abdul Sidi proceeding at a more sedate pace, but still second in the Group N category. Running in tandem with the Kingsway car was another Kenyan crew in Asad Anwar and Supi Soin in another of the factory Daewoos. One of the characters of South African motorsport was competing in his 24th Castrol Rally. Springbok Spotty Woodhead navigated for many of the top names down the years, and in recent seasons had switched to driving a VW Golf that had completed more than 50 national championship events. Spotty and Caroline Swan were having a good dice with Cliffy Barker and Malcolm Jabir in the Forstex Land Rover Defender.
So far it's been a rally of water and fan belts and things like that. You know, we've had the fan belt hop off once, we've had the belt that holds the alternator come off once. So we've done about 4 stages, just keeping it cool and just trying to get through the stages, not to lose time. We've now put some water in. We're using the medics to give us some water. And, the car's still going all right. We just want to keep it together to the end.
We had a bit of hassle yesterday, but today we're going quite nicely. We obviously won't make up time on RP and Cassie, but I think we've caught Colin now. So I think we're lying third in the Video Sport Challenge.
What were the problems you had yesterday?
Well, we caught that big storm in stage 4 and lost 5 minutes, and then our car cut out in one of the night stages, and we spent about 11, 12 minutes extra in the stage, plus got a bit of lateness.
The Castrol Rally Fact File. Ford has won the Castrol 3 times, with Sarah van der Merwe responsible for 2 of those victories. At the first regroup of the day, the gap between Sarah van der Merwe and Frans Boshoff in the Castrol Daewoo and Enzo Kuhn and Guy Hodgson in the Bankfin Hyundai had stretched to just over 14 minutes. While the hard-working service crews got down to business, Kuhn discussed the dilemma that he and Hodgson faced in leading by such a wide margin.
Yes, I was just complaining to Sergio. I was quite upset that he messed up our dice, because that keeps you sharp and it keeps you going. You know, I'd rather be chasing someone, but you got to stay out there and just. I'm just going hard at the moment, running at a reasonably, 8/10 pace and not relaxing, because it's, as I say, it's very muddy and tricky, slippery. You can put it off into the trees in a split second.
Cassie Coetzee and Richard Leek led the battle of the off-roaders, but had run into a problem.
Cassie, you lost a bit of time there.
Yes, we blown the intercooler. There's a bursting, so all the pressure of the turbo coming loose, and it's a pity. But Gillo's going to fix it now, so all the boost will be back to normal.
Behind the leading Korean cars, Brandon Olivier was third, with Mitrovic and Burrows fourth, and Ball and Duncan fifth. The Kutsia Leek and Reneke Houghton crews were 6th and 7th, with Piazza Musso Harding slipping back to 8th after starting the day in 5th spot. The rebunch provided crews and rally followers with a welcome respite from the rigours of championship rallying, but it was soon down to work again. It was now obvious that the 25th Castrol was going to develop into a straight fight between Kuhn and Hodgson and Van der Merwe and Boshoff. The Bankfin Hyundai crew held by far the best hand, and Van der Merwe lost time in special stage 22 with an uncharacteristic error. Race cam footage of the great man spinning out.
Easy right.
There were no surprises for guessing who was still on a charge. Jürgen Fecken and Neil Faree now had assistance from the Toyota factory service crew and were still flying. At the end of stage 22, Van der Merwe was prepared to shoulder the blame for lost time.
Sorrow problems in that stage?
I spun twice, but that was nothing to do with the car. That was just the driver.
After their trials and tribulations earlier in the day in the Team Total Fiat Uno, Paolo Piazza Musso and Cindy Harding were going about repairing some of the damage. They were starting to pull back time, while behind them, the Kingsway Daewoo, Sami Aslam and Abdul Sidi continued to motor along on the fringes of the top 10. While all 5 factory-entered Daewoos were still going strong in an impressive performance, time was running out for Cliffy Barker and Malcolm Jabir in the 4-stick Land Rover. The pair were running out of brakes, and stopping around 2 tons of Land Rover was starting to get a little hairy. Honours for the most uncomfortable ride on the rally went to Wade Perrins and Hamilton Guthrie in the Sandmaster. With no windscreen or side window panels, it was a chilly and muddy experience, although the pair were going along without any major problems.
Terry, clutch problems after stage 23, I think.
Yes, we've got oil on the clutch. So the clutch started slipping in this last stage. Unfortunately, one of those things, you know, what can you do? Castrol's a tough event, so we've just got to try and sort out the problem and get going. You know, still got a day and a half of rallying left.
You did the safari this year?
Yes, we did. We finished. We won our class, the only two-wheel drive to finish in terrible weather.
And how do you find South African rallying compared to Kenyan rallying?
Totally different. Yeah, this is totally the sprint. Safari is endurance. Here the weather is also different. Very slippery and very unpredictable. You come to one corner, it's totally slippery. Next corner is dry. So the judgment is got to be very right at precise moments.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Special stage 25 saw Sorrel van der Merwe and Frans Boshoff regain some of the time they lost to Enzo Kuhn and Guy Hodgson in the previous stages. The Bankfin Hyundai picked up a misfire early on when water crept into the electrics, and there was nothing Kuhn and Hodgson could do other than cruise along. With more rain always a possibility as the rally started to work its way towards the second overnight stop in Mbaban, Supervan was back on song after his earlier misadventures. The Sassel Daewoo took an easy stage win, but the gap between the 2 Korean cars was continuing to widen. Behind Van der Merwe and Boshoff, third place was still in the hands of Terry Brandt and Marty Olivier in the Autotech Golf. The gearbox change at the end of stage 24 forced them to take lateness, but this was not enough to make them lose a position. At the service point, it was 4th placed Alan Mitrovic and Mike Burrows in the Team Total Golf who had cause for little concern.
Alan, damage at the back? What happened?
We took a very high bump. Sideways came down on the front nose of the car. Seems to have twisted the chassis and put the, amongst other things, put the exhaust out of place. I don't think it's serious. So we push on.
The Castrol Rally fact file with Briton Tony Pond, the first overseas driver to win the Castrol Rally. Pond won the event twice. The final night stages of this year's Castrol Rally was expected to produce a few significant changes. Enzo Kuhn enjoys night stages, and at his peak, Sorrel van der Merwe had few equals when it came to rallying at night. The gap between the 2 front-runners stayed constant, and Terry Brandt and Marty Olivier maintained a firm grip on 3rd overall and 1st place in Class S18 for South African cars. There was heartbreak for Ben and Isabel van der Westhuizen when they were stuck in stage 25, lost the lead in the Group N category and dropped from 9th to 24th. The other big moves in the final night stages came from Cassie Coetzee and Richard Leek in the Castrol Toyota Hilux Bucky, and Paolo Piazza Musso and Cindy Harding in the Team Total Fiat Uno. Coetzee and Leek took full advantage of the wet conditions in the big Bucky, with Piazza Musso and Harding continuing their climb up the leaderboard. That pair, Jürgen Fecken and Neil Fourie, were still at it, while Tony Ball explained that night rallying was an expensive business.
Tony, it looks like a lot of money invested in the front of this car. What are these lights sort of, what are they worth?
Oh, probably about 300 Rand each. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2,000 Rand. Have you hit a tree? not much fun. Yeah, no. But we didn't have much luck with them tonight with the mud. Going all over them, and first puddle you hit and that's the end of it.
Rally leaders Kuhn and Hodgson and second place Van der Merwe and Boshoff held station in the night stages. The tricky conditions at the end of the day produced the expected musical cheers behind the leading pair, with Coetzee and Leek the biggest movers on the leaderboard. The final day of a tough and grueling 25th Castrol Rally saw the survivors head into eastern Swaziland. On the menu were a series of 8 special stages in the sugarcane fields in the Simunye and Mhlumi regions. The cane stages offered another contrast for the competitors before heading back to Mbaban for the final 2 stages of the rally. The sugarcane stages with the water canals, a constant danger for the unwary, give the route through Simunye and Mhlumi a character of its own. With 4-wheel drive and the fastest car on the rally, overnight leaders Enzo Kuhn and Guy Hodgson quickly started to widen the gap, and there was nothing Sorrel van der Merwe and Frans Boshoff could do about it in the Sassel Daewoo Cello. All they could hope for was for Kuhn and Hodgson to deposit the Hyundai into the cane or a canal, or for mechanical failure to scupper the pair. Terry Brand and Marty Olivier were safely ensconced in 3rd position in the Autotech Golf and had a tight hold on Class S18 in the South African Championship. Behind the Autotech car, Arpi Reinecker and Robin Houghton were building up a head of steam in the big Bangfin Toyota Land Cruiser, which was showing a surprising turn of speed. Reinecker and Houghton were once again dueling with Class S16 leaders Tony Ball and Brian Duncan in the Team Total Golf GTI. Ball and Duncan had spent most of the event fighting with one or more of the off-road contingent. Jürgen Fecken and Neil Fourie again had the bit between their teeth, with the large crowds lining special stages taking the pair to their hearts. By special stage 31, rally leaders Enzo Kuhn and Guy Hodgson had stretched their lead to more than 17 minutes. But approaching the traditional final day Castrol Rally water splash, there were ominous puffs of smoke from the rear of the Bangfin Hyundai. Kuhn and Hodgson took the water splash very gently, with Sorrel van der Merwe and Frans Boshoff steaming along behind them in 2nd place. It was obvious something was amiss with the Hyundai. Supervan and Boshoff also decided on discretion being the better part of valor, and there was high drama at the end of the stage when the turbo on the Hyundai had to be replaced. With the lateness penalty, the Kuhn-Hodgson lead was now down to just over 5 minutes, with worried looks starting to appear in the Hyundai camp. In 5th spot, Alan Mitrovic and Mike Burrows in the Team Total Golf GTI threw caution to the wind at the water splash. A deep breath, full speed ahead, and nods of approval from the big crowd there to see the fun and games. Tony Ball and Brian Duncan in the Team Total Golf GTI also decided on the full speed ahead and to hell with the consequences approach. Ball and Duncan made it through safely enough and earned full marks from motorsport legend Jan Hettemer, who twice won the Castrol Rally. When Jürgen Fecken and Neil Fourie arrived on the scene in the Team Total Toyota Conquest, their incident-packed rally had taken another twist. They rolled the Conquest into the sugarcane, but it was typical of their approach to rallying that they were still in attack mode. Apart from leading the Video Sport Pioneer Plastics Off-Road Challenge, Cassie Coetzee and Richard Leek now had a firm hold on 4th overall in the Castrol Toyota Hilux. Fellow off-roaders Arpi Reinecker and Robin Houghton demonstrated the worth of bulk and power when the route got a little too tight, and Jürgen Fecken and Neil Fourie kept the Toyota service crew from getting bored.
Latest member of the Roly-Poly Club?
It's one of those things which happens on rallies.
What actually happened?
90 left closed down on us, and these sugarcane roads, we hit it sideways and the car just went over.
With the final rebunch of the rally at Mchlume just around the corner, a hard-at-work Tony Ball and Brian Duncan were leading Class S16 for South African cars and trying to close the gap on sixth place Arpie Reneker and Robin Houghton in the Bankfin Toyota Land Cruiser. Some of the locals weren't interested in the progress of the rally, but after the problems encountered by Enzo Kun and Guy Hodgson in the Bankfin Hyundai, a fired-up Sorrel van der Merwe and Frans Boshoff could scent a stunning victory. Ball and Duncan were still trying to make up ground, but the body language in the Bankfin Hyundai told its own story.
Sharp right is sharp left. Sharp right here is sharp left. Left, left, left is straight on.
While massive chinks were appearing in the Bankfin Hyundai armour, Jürgen Fecken and Neil Ferree were up and charging again in a Team Total Toyota Conquest that was now bearing the scars of heavy battle. There were no such battle scars on the Team Total Golf CSL of Barry Grobler and Pierre Aris, who was second in Class S19 to Paolo Piazzamusso and Cindy Harding. Little cameo performances were being enacted throughout the field, but the real drama lay with Enzo Kun and Guy Hodgson, who were in trouble again on Special Stage 35. The Hyundai was coasting along when a plume of smoke spewed from the back of the car. It meant only one thing: more turbo problems, an absolute disaster for the team, with Kun's expression saying it all.
Guy, how much time have you got here?
We have about 7 minutes available to us, but changing the turbo will take us about 25 minutes. So the penalties will definitely drop us out of the lead right at the end of the rally. What can you do?
Sport can often be cruel, with one man's sorrow, another man's good fortune.
I think we're happy at this stage. We feel sorry for them, but it's one of those things. And if our cars can last till the end, it's going to be good news, hopefully.
With just 3 special stages to go, it was all over bar the shouting, and all that was needed was for Sorrel van der Merwe and Frans Boshoff to put the finishing touches to a fairy tale comeback to National Championship rallying. A maiden win for Daewoo in their South African debut, a 10th Castrol win for van der Merwe, and an 11th victory for Boshoff was all adding to South African rally folklore. It was a victory against all odds and achieved with a modicum of good fortune, but that's sport for you. For Terry Brand and Marty Olivier, 3rd place in the Autotech Golf GTI was also a marvellous performance. From day one, the pair had never been out of the top 10 and seldom out of the top 5. There was another stunning performance with Cassie Kutsia and Richard Leek 4th overall, and winners of the Video Sport Pioneer Plastics Off-Road Challenge in the Castrol Toyota Hilux. Tony Ball and Brian Duncan gave Team Total a win in Class S16, and Paolo Piazzamusso and Cindy Harding took Class S19 in the Team Total Fiat Uno. There were more honours for Daewoo, with Sami Aslam and Abdul Sidi 10th overall and winners of the Group N category. 4 of the 5 factory Daewoos made it to the finish, but spare a thought for Enzo Kun and Guy Hodgson, who saw defeat snatched from the jaws of victory. The Castrol Rally fact file. Sorrel van der Merwe scored 6 Castrol Rally wins, 4 of them in a row, driving for the Audi and Volkswagen factory teams. Finish at the Royal Swazi Spa, there was an emotional welcome for Sorrel van der Merwe and Frans Boshoff, with Supervan's wife, Danielle, wearing the broadest smile of them all. In a distinguished career, there have been many moments for van der Merwe and Boshoff to savour, but this one was special in that it was totally unexpected.
Very good. It was a hell of an event, and it was a nice one to win. A nice comeback. Car was super, the team was super, everything was just nice. Lovely to be back.
What can you say? I mean, it's a dream come true. It's just unbelievable. Thank you.
A marvellous victory for 2 legends in their own lifetimes. Sad disappointment for Enzo Kun and Guy Hodgson on a memorable 25th Castrol International Rally, while a Korean 1-2 for Daewoo and Hyundai added another touch of history to South Africa's premier national championship rally.